that nasty track. Rewind, play it back, sing low, shake it loose, feel the bass, feel the bass. Pump that nasty track. Rewind, play it back, sing low, shake it loose, feel the bass, feel the bass. Pump that nasty track.
Foreign Delicacies by Flypone. Edited for text-to-speech by Israel Rodriguez. The story starts with Rarity and Pinkie Pie approaching Zecora's hut. The zebra had invited them over for dinner. Apparently, she had gotten a hold of some food that was delicacy for zebras and wanted to share it with friends. She had come to the conclusion that the two of them would truly appreciate the meal. Zecora greeted them at the door, letting them in and taking them to the hut's dining area. Rarity and Pinkie sat down at opposite sides of the table, making themselves comfortable. "Thank you so much for inviting us," Zecora, Rarity said. "Yeah, I bet these zebra treats are the best, aren't they?" exclaimed Pinkie, her usual smile on her face. "What are they anyway? Special zebra cupcakes? Special zebra candy? Special zebra muffins?" Grabbing a box from underneath the table, the zebra returned their smiles and explained, "Not exactly. They are not normal treats, but I'm sure you'll find their taste rather neat." She set the box down on the table, placing her hooves on the lid as she prepared to open it. "I haven't had them since I left home. They are quite rare in this new abode." Rarity's curiosity was piqued. She wondered what could possibly be so rare here in Equestria. After all, its economy was full of many imports and exports, so wouldn't Zecora be able to easily get some of these delicacies? "I was able to catch these this previous spring, and once again my taste buds sing," the zebra said, lifting the lid off the box and exposing its contents. Rarity frowned in confusion. "Catch them?" But she could have sworn that. Rarity and Pinkie Pie gasped as they looked down into the box and the terrified creatures within. Fulgust shaded his eyes as light shone down on him and the others once again as the lid of the box was taken off. The zebra wasn't alone this time. Instead, she had a white unicorn and pink earth pony with her. Apparently he and the other breezes were going to be shared with her friends. They had been on their way home, having to leave behind a small group of breezes who had been knocked off course by Leaf, leaving them in low spirits. Their path took them through the ever-free forest and right into the cruel zebra. The breezes found themselves all caught in a net and were soon transferred to different boxes. Fulgust watched as the zebra sampled her catch, swallowing down a few breezes like pieces of food. They could no longer even speak, her having force-fed them a potion that robbed them of flight and speech. They might as well just be little morsels, destined to meet their fate in the zebra's stomach. Fulgust opened his mouth in a mute scream as hoof came down on him. He squirmed as he was lifted out of the box, the hoof's grip too powerful for him to break free. He was before the massive zebra's lips, shivering in fear as his fate unfolded. The lips parted, the zebra's tongue emerging, darting towards the breeze's body. He closed his eyes as it came in contact with him. She licked her little treat, her tongue running up his body, leaving him coated in saliva. He could hear it making a wet sound as it continued, making repeated swipes at him, the zebra treating him like a lollipop. Suddenly, he felt her teeth at his back. She had closed her mouth right around him, taking him off her hoof. His tail stuck out of her mouth, soon sucked in as well like a strand of spaghetti. The mouth got work right away as Fulgust was pressed against its roof. His saliva-soaked body squeezed under immense pressure. He could hear the zebra making sound of pleasure as she sucked on him like a piece of candy. The breezy suddenly felt a sensation of suction as he was pulled to the back of the mouth. He pulled through an opening, the pressure on his body increasing immensely as he was swallowed. The throat's walls all pressed at him, working him down the zebra's gullet. He was soon freed, falling down into the pool of acids below. Rarity watched in muted horror as Zecora rubbed her belly, having just swallowed a breezy, of all things. She wondered how the zebra could do something like that to another sentient creature. She was still licking her lips, making yum sounds, while the poor thing was surely starting to be digested in her stomach. Zecora pushed the box more towards the middle of the table, gesturing to her guests. "Now that you see they taste so good, please try one if you would," said Zecora. But Rarity was cut off as Pinkie Pie reached in and plucked out a breezy herself, plopping it right in her mouth and getting to work. Spring Breath attempted to scream as she was thrown into the pink pony's mouth, still silenced by the zebra's potion. She landed with a sickening plop on her tongue. The light immediately cut off as the teeth clacked shut, and she was battered around by the wet muscle. The poor breezy was suddenly deafened as the pony said something, presumably to the zebra, her voice blaring out all around Spring Breath as she wrestled with the tongue. She was being pushed around the mouth, pressed against the roof, and squeezed like a lozenge, switched around in the cheeks, and held between teeth like a piece of hard candy, all the while the pony was making sounds of pleasure, truly enjoying her treat. Light was repeatedly allowed into the mouth, the pony not even bothering to eat the breezy with her mouth shut. Spring Breath found herself immobile, all motion coming to a halt as she was held under the tongue, like a foal hiding gum from a teacher. The pony's moans of pleasure reached a crescendo as she squeezed and squeezed the breezy, swallowing down the saliva that'd been flavored by the living treat. She was suddenly thrown into the light again and felt air against her fur. She was lying against the tongue, it being stuck out of the mouth. She was being shown off, like a childish foal showing off chewed food. Spring Breath saw the other two. The zebra was watching in cruel fascination with a smile on her face, while the white pony was watching in horror. The white one gave her a bit of hope. Maybe a few of the others would make it, but that hope was soon turned into despair as she noticed a tiny bit of drool running down the pony's lip, licked away subconsciously. There was no hope after all. The breezy was suddenly thrown up into the air, the pink pony having thrown her up with her mouth. She free fell right back down into the gaping maw, passing the teeth and tongue, and landing right in the throat. There was a final deafening gulp, and the pink pony had finished her treat. Rarity, unaware of her own drooling, watched in horror and fascination as her friend swallowed down the breezy. She had about the same reaction as the zebra, making yum sounds, and rubbing her belly. Wow, those really are delicious, Zecora. Pinkie exclaimed, giving a big smile towards the box, licking her lips in anticipation for the next one. Zecora turned to Rarity, pushing the box expectantly towards her. Please try one, Miss Rarity, they are good as you can see. She even picked one out for her, placing it on the table, the creature shivering in fear as it looked up at the white mare. Rarity poked at the breezy, it flinching away at her touch. But they are living, sentient beings. They are just like tiny ponies. How could you eat them? She asked incredulously. Oh come on, Rara. Pinkie exclaimed, do you really think Zecora would tell us their food if they were really just like ponies? She picked out one herself, playing with it between her hooves. The poor thing squirmed in her grip, pressed between them. She placed it down, swatting at it with her hooves, and chasing it around the table. Zecora merely smiled at Rarity. Bugs are small, and they are too. They are not like me, and you, she informed her, snatching up a breezy and giving it a few licks. Yeah, and besides, Pinkie chimed in again, they taste really good, just like food. Real ponies don't taste so good. She suddenly brought her own breezy up to her mouth, giving it a good long lick. They're small like food, and they taste like food, so they must be food. She began playfully biting at the creature, snapping her teeth in the air around it, just close enough for it to hear the clack of each bite, and for it to see its own reflection in them. Finishing up on her breezy, Zecora slurped it into her mouth, swallowing it down with an audible gulp. The food chain cannot be fought. Such a thing is a silly thought. Rarity looked back down at her breezy. They did have point. Why would anything like a pony be so small and tasty? She realized that she was drooling a little, her mouth salivating as she watched her friends devour the tiny morsels. She swallowed some of the saliva down. I guess I could try just one. She set her head down on the table, placing her muzzle in front of the breezy and her hoof behind it. Rarity opened her mouth wide, pushing the little breezy towards her maw. She stopped just before it actually entered. She still had some reservations. Zecora frowned, not realizing the real reason why Rarity stopped. She figured she would help her get the breezy to enter itself, thinking that was the mare's plan. She reached over, placed her hoof on the breezy, and pressing it into the table. If you do not go in, then under my hoof you'll meet you end. The breezy squirmed beneath her hoof, terrified. Though it could not actually understand her, it got the message. Once she took her hoof off of it, it got moving. Rarity shivered a little as she felt the tiny being take a few steps on her tongue. Evening breeze entered the white pony's mouth. The tongue made a squishing noise with each step. The entrance was closed shut behind, a sense of vertigo filling him as the pony sat up. For the moment, the pony did nothing, only letting him sit in her humid mouth. He thought he might have a chance of surviving, since she seemed to be a little unwilling. Suddenly, this thought was cut off as he heard a soul-crushing sound. Rarity made a sound of pleasure as the breeze's flavor hit her taste buds. "Oh my, you two were right," she exclaimed, suddenly squeezing the little morsel as she began sucking on it. "They're absolutely scrumptious." She felt the breezy squirm around, adding to her pleasure. It felt amazing on her tongue. The delectable little treat was soon banging on her teeth, only to be pulled back and pushed in her cheek as she sucked on him like candy. Rarity squeezed the morsel into every crevice of her mouth, anything to make sure the taste would last. Soon, however, the breezy was devoid of taste, having had it been all squeezed and sucked out by the mare. She began to tilt her head back. She felt the breezy latch onto her tongue to prolong the inevitable, but a quick flick dislodged it and sent it into her throat. She felt it squirm as she worked the muscles contained in her neck, the wonderful struggles giving a delightful feeling going down. She used her hoof to trail the movements down through her chest, following it until there was sudden release, and she felt something solid splash in her belly. Rarity gave her belly a good rub while licking her lips, anticipating the next taste as she reached for another breezy. The night progressed on. The three friends feasted on the zebra delicacies as they chatted about recent events. Zecora would just give her breezes a few good licks before taking them into mouth and giving a quick swallow. Pinkie would often toy with her, playing with her food before it went down her gullet. The breezes who went to Rarity would spend extended periods of time being violated by tongues savored their taste. Zecora even shared some ways that the little treats could be eaten. They're a good topping on food to munch, and they also have a wonderful crunch, she said, licking her lips with her tongue, which seemed to have grown a darker shade of pink. Pinkie nodded, her mouth full yet fresh wagogred backed into shom cupcakes, she said, salivating at the thought of delicious breezy cupcakes. The morsel in her mouth managed to break through her lips, only to be sucked back in and gulped down. Rarity giggled at the thought of dipping the breezes into some chocolate, licking it off every inch of their bodies, before sending them down her throat. Soon, the box had been emptied, the breezes all digesting in their stomachs. Zecora placed it to the side, taking 2 more boxes from beneath the table, and giving them to the ponies. "Here, for the road," she said. "You can each have a supply of your own," giving away the box's contents. "Are you sure?" Rarity asked, placing her hooves on her box's sides. Pinkie chimed in, "Yeah, we don't want to take all your breezy treats." She picked up her own box, shaking it up a little bit to give the occupants a scare. Zecora merely smiled at her friends, ushering them as they carried their boxes on the way out. "I assure you, you need not care. I have plenty enough to share." They each said goodbye, the 2 ponies heading home with their treat supplies in tow. "That was so kind of her to share with us," Rarity said to Pinkie, already planning out her next few meals. "Yeah, I can't wait for next year, when we can get even more," the party pony replied, working out a recipe for breezy cupcakes, breezer cakes, in her head. The friends laughed as they headed home, thinking about the new taste added to their palate and how they might experiment with it.
That's all, Zipsters! Like and subscribe.